Hey, Rainbow here, and how are you? Well, yesterday wasn't a great day. Had a video that I posted that was a little bit negative. I'll put a link up there if you didn't see it. Don't normally like doing that, but had to be done. It is what it is. Anyway, so why are we here today? Something really quick and simple, and something that everyone should know how to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it, but I'm going to show you how I do it. Might not be how you do it, but it's how I do it. I'm not saying what I'm doing is right and what you're doing is wrong. I'm just saying this is how I do it, and this is how it's been working for me kind of for decades, to be quite honest with you. Except when I had the Indian Scout bobber, because then I had a belt drive. So, but it was the same thing, because I still had to not adjust tension, but I kind of had to adjust the alignment every now and then. Hey, so anyway, so I'm going to do a little breakdown on the Ducati Multistrada V4S, and we're going to see how I adjust the chain. Now, when you first get this bike and you go in for your 600-mile service, what you're going to find is that it's going to be super loose in the beginning, because probably about the first 600-700, maybe first 1,000 miles of a chain, it's when it really starts to stretch the most. After that, it kind of, it's just a little bit, depending upon how you ride your bike, of course. So I had it adjusted initially because I had the first service done at the Ducati dealer. I had to adjust it again somewhere around 2,000, 2,500 miles. And now I'm about 4,600 miles, and it's time again for just a minor adjustment. So I like to keep things in a pretty decent tolerance, so I'm going to adjust it. So let's take a look right now. All right, so first things first, I adjust the chain with the kickstand down. If you're wondering why the center stand is partially down, it's because it's kind of in the way, and I'll show you what I do to get things out of the way. So one of the things that I do is I just put a little bit of a sandbag or whatever you have on the other side so that it keeps it down and out of the way, and you will see why it needs to be out of the way next. So one of the reasons why I adjust the chain with the side stand and not the center stand is so that we have some weight on the rear wheel. It's kind of the way you're supposed to do it according to Ducati anyway. So don't adjust your chain with the center stand and no weight on the rear wheel, because you might end up with a chain that's too tight once you put some weight back on it. Or you could do it that way if you know what the measurements are going to be and you've done that before. Now the tool of choice, which is what Ducati gives you, is this little doohickey right here, and this is what you're going to find in your kit that is underneath the passenger seat, and it's inside the kit, jammed in there where you have your flat tire repair kit. All right, one of the things that you're going to notice is that there are two lines right here and here that are on this chain adjustment tool, and it's actually a measuring device. So what you're going to do is you're going to center those on the center of the chain pins. Let's take a look. All right, so okay, so where you're going to put the tool is going to be at the very end here, where this plastic ends. This is all slotted in here by your swing arm, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to slide it in, but be very careful that it's not cockeyed, okay? When you slide this in, and I know my hand's in the way, you have to make sure that it's all the way to the rear as far as it can go, right here, and that it's laying flat across. Now when you do that, you have a better idea of exactly where the chain is. So one of the things you'll notice is if you put a little bit of tension on here and you bring it down, you'll see that this line is above the chain, which means the chain is technically, the pins are below this line. So the center of the pins are supposed to be centered on right between these two lines here. So this chain has to get tightened up just a hair. Now it's probably not out of adjustment enough to have to worry about it, but I'm here to set it up the right way and the way I like it. So I don't have really any slack. So the bottom line is you put a little tension here so it gets thing lays flat, and you can clearly see that the chain has to come up a little bit. So we're going to make an adjustment in the back, and let's take a look what we're going to do for that. Okay, so what you're going to need over here is to loosen up your axle nut right there. Now, you can tell the way this is cut out that this is a 12-tooth socket that's going to be required. So you're going to need probably this right here, which is a 36 millimeter half-inch drive socket in order to get that off. And if you're going to do that, it's probably best to take it easy to put it on a breaker bar. So let's go ahead and get that thing broken. All right, so this is actually tightened to 130 foot-pounds, so it's going to take a little bit to get it broken and loosen it up so that you could adjust the axle. And there we go. So there we go. So now we have that loose, so we can slide this back a little bit, and let's check it out. Well, I seem to have lost my audio for this part, but what I'm doing here is I'm showing you that the rear chain guard has to come off. There are two 4 millimeter hex head screws that have to come out, okay? So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna basically take the two screws out and remove it. It's really quite that simple. I'm in the way half the time anyway on this, but I just wanted to remind you that that has to come out for sure. All right, so the next thing you're going to need is going to be 12 millimeter and a 10 millimeter. 12 millimeter is going to be for the jam nut right here, because we have to get this jam nut released so that we can turn the adjustment nut. Okay, so we get that a little bit loose, and then we can come in and we can adjust this nut right here. Now, here's what's going to be super important for this, to be quite honest with you. These are very, very, very minor adjustments, okay? And you have to have even on both sides in order for everything to be aligned and get the adjustment that you need to take the slack out of the chain. Now in this case, I have hardly any slack, so I'm going to need very, very little. But whatever you do on one side, do on the other. But there's another thing that I do that helps keep things in alignment for me, and I'm going to show you that next. Okay, so on the left side, in order to tighten the chain, I have to move this counterclockwise, which is going to back this bolt out of here and push here on the axle. If I pull it this way, it's going to cant. If I do too much on one side than the other, then my sprocket's going to be out of alignment, and I'm going to wear out the sprocket and the chain. All right? So again, on the left side, to tighten things up, you actually will be technically loosening this bolt. But again, whatever you turn here, turn exactly the same on the other side. And just keep going back and forth. This side, the other side, this side, the other side. But the whole time you have to be watching that little chain gauge that you have. So one of the things that you can do is put on this chain alignment tool. You can see the one that I have here, and you see how it gets put on, and then it follows it down to the other side, and you're going to be able to tell exactly how aligned your chain is to the sprocket. So as you can see, there's like a little adjustment screw that holds it on, and then you just adjust it till this is all lined up perfectly even with the sprocket. All right, pretty quick, pretty simple, and pretty easy. And the focus on this is not the easiest. I'm freehanding this. All right, let's take a look. All right, once you make your adjustment, I start putting a little bit of tension on that 36 millimeter axle nut. And one of the important things that you need to do is, it's really playing back and forth, is just make sure that you hold your adjustment here exactly where it belongs before you start tightening this jam nut. Because what you can do is, as you tighten a jam nut, you may have the tendency to actually pull this in. So you just hold them in place, do the opposite, put some tension on it. I'm sure there's some torque spec somewhere, and double check your alignment tool, and then let's finish tightening all the way the rear axle nut. And then set your torque wrench of choice on and give yourself 130 foot-pounds. There it is right there. And let's finish up and take a look at what we have. And let us not forget to put this rear chain guard back on. Then a little piece of plastic help lines it up. Get it started. Get it started. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of thread lock on there, a little blue thread lock, so it doesn't go anywhere. But I think this is in pretty good shape here. This is still pretty new and holding rather well. If I take it on and off a few more times, probably cause me some problems. But little blue thread lock never hurt anyone. So go ahead and get this back on, and let's see where our adjustment is. And now you see chain has some slack, all right, and right in here it's centered right on the pins. Pretty good, kind of what I wanted. Anyway, just holding this up so you can see it. There we go. All right, so that is how you tighten a chain on the Multistrada V4 or V4S. There you go.